Once upon a time, in the heart of the Sierra Madre Oriental mountain range, there lay a tale so horrifying and surreal that it would rival the darkest plots of Hollywood movies. But here's the chilling truth. This story unfolded in the real world, shocking not just a village, but the entire world when the gruesome reality behind its veil was exposed. The Sierra Madre Oriental, a vast and rugged mountain range that stretches from the southern border of Texas into Mexico, was home to numerous caves scattered across its eastern face. Beneath these caves, nestled at the foot of the mountains, lay a cluster of isolated, impoverished villages populated by illiterate farmers. In May of 1963, a curious 14-year-old boy named Sebastian Guerrero, residing in one of these remote villages, embarked on a fateful journey. His mission was to explore the mysterious caves, driven either by a belief in hidden treasure or merely a teenage spirit of adventure. Armed with little more than determination, he began his ascent towards the cave entrances, situated hundreds of feet up the mountainside. However, as he trekked upwards in the darkness, he noticed an anomaly. Light emanated from one of the cave entrances, an occurrence he had never witnessed before. These caves were usually deserted, especially at night. Driven by curiosity and perhaps a dash of apprehension, he abandoned his original plan to explore and redirected his path toward the illuminated cave. As he approached the cave entrance, anxiety gnawed at him. Strange sounds reached his ears, resembling screams mixed with chanting or singing. A foreboding atmosphere enveloped the area. His fear mounted, but his curiosity persisted. Sebastian couldn't resist the urge to investigate, despite the growing unease. He inched closer and closer to the entrance, eventually peering around a rock's edge. What he witnessed inside froze him in terror. Survival instincts took over, and he bolted down the mountainside, fearing pursuit. He never returned to his village, opting instead to run nearly 10 miles to the nearest police station. When Sebastian arrived, he was drenched in sweat, frantically recounting what he had seen. Unfortunately, his words failed to convey the full horror he had witnessed. He stammered and could only muster a single word: vampires. The police officers finds it hard to take his account seriously, dismissing it as a fantastical tale of a aphid boy who was traveling for a treasure hunt alone in the mountain cave. They eventually drove him back to his village, brushing aside his pleas. The next day, Sebastian's unease lingered, compelling him to make another plea to the police. This time, an officer named Luis Martinez agreed to investigate, though other officers didn't see any point of investigating. They took a police jeep and started journey together, heading towards the ominous cave. However, as the day wore on, and no word came from Luis and Sebastian, the police force grew concerned. Something was wrong, very wrong. When it's almost evening, the police drive to the nearest village and look for the boy, but his family informed the police. The boy didn't return to his home, turn the pool still, understand something is very wrong and they need to take immediate action if they want their colleague nad the boy alive. But this was not a normal area. This was the mountain cave and the forests of Mexico. They understand that they can't handle the situation alone, so they dispatched the Mexican army to assist in the search for the missing officer and the boy. As night fell, the village remained in the dark about their whereabouts. When the rescue party arrived at the cave, they stumbled upon a scene that would haunt their nightmares forever. To understand the true horror that awaited them, we must rewind 6 months to December of 1962. During that month, 2 brothers named Santos and Cayetano Hernandez devised a malevolent plan. Traveling throughout Mexico, they had honed their skills in theft and deception. Their latest target was an impoverished villa named La Yerba Buena, located at the foot of the Sierra Madre Oriental, the same area as the cave. The brothers set out to convince the villagers that they were prophets of an exiled Incan god. They promised wealth and riches, effectively turning the villagers into their unwitting slaves. The villagers, who were isolated, impoverished, and gullible, believed every word. The brothers' charismatic performance solidified the illusion. However, as time passed, some villagers began to question their supposed benefactors. It seemed the brothers were exploiting, not enriching them. A growing sense of discontent and frustration spread among the villagers. When these whispers reached the brothers' ears, they decided to recruit Magdalena Solis, a local prostitute, to bolster their scam. Magdalena joined the charade, donning the role of a reincarnated Incan goddess. Her power over the villagers was intoxicating. She demanded blood, at first from animals, but her growing delusion soon led her to insist on human blood for her sustenance. In a gruesome turn of events, the villagers sacrificed their own animals and pets to feed her appetite for blood. As the abuse intensified, two brave villagers attempted to escape, but the brothers discovered their plan and informed Magdalena. She ordered the villagers to gather for a special ceremony. As everyone entered the cave, she pointed to the two dissenters and demanded their execution. A horrific lynching ensued, and the lifeless bodies were hung on pikes. Magdalena then engaged in a ritualistic consumption of their blood. This act signaled a dark transformation. Magdalena became convinced that human blood was the sole source of her divine power. For weeks, Magdalena's rule over La Yerba Buena continued, marked by blood rituals that spiraled into madness. She would order unsuspecting villagers to the cave, with one chosen to be sacrificed. The others would beat the victim into submission before their heart was carved out while still alive, their blood consumed by Magdalena. In May 1963, as Sebastian peered into the cave, he witnessed one of these horrifying rituals. It was a sight that left him traumatized, and he fled to the authorities, desperate for help. The police and army subsequently engaged in a deadly confrontation with the villagers barricaded in the cave, resulting in numerous casualties, including the death of the Hernandez brothers. As the authorities entered the cave, they discovered the gruesome remains of victims and evidence of Magdalena's macabre rituals. The village, meanwhile, had been deserted, its terrified inhabitants having sought refuge in the cave, fearing retribution. In the end, Magdalena and her brother Eliezer were captured. Magdalena, responsible for at least 15 gruesome sacrifices, was sentenced to 50 years in prison. The surviving villagers, despite the opportunity to testify against her in exchange for reduced sentences, remained silent, still more fearful of the supposed goddess than of imprisonment. The darkness that had descended upon La Yerba Buena had finally been unveiled, leaving a scar on the world's collective memory. Magdalena would eventually meet her end behind bars, but the horrors of that time will forever haunt the annals of history.